Let's move along. This is something that Duncan, I know you talked about. I think it was the podcast when Trevor joined us, and I saw an interesting article that kind of played off of that, and I wanted to bring it up for a larger discussion. Are Instagram and TikTok the newest search engines? A new study reveals a shift in search engine preferences among younger demographics, with Gen Z favoring Instagram and TikTok over Google. According to the survey, 67% of 18 to 24-year-olds use Instagram for search, followed by 62% who use TikTok, with Google ranking at 61%. However, Google remains the preferred search engine for older generations. The trend highlights a growing reliance on social media for search and discovery, posing a challenge to traditional search engines. This is something we had a little conversation with before we pressed record. We probably should have recorded that because it would have fit into exactly what we want to talk about now. I know Duncan, well, both of you, Duncan, you have some opinions on this. What are your thoughts around the idea of Instagram and TikTok kind of becoming these search engines for younger demographic? I know in a previous podcast you mentioned it for travel research. You're not looking on Google for travel research. You're going to TikTok to see what restaurants people are going to, etc. What are your thoughts on this article?
Well, first and foremost, Instagram as a search engine to me, that's the first time I've ever heard it. I haven't really heard of Instagram being used in that way. I mean, people generally search for other users on Instagram. I've never really typed in, like what to do in Italy on Instagram. But I have been doing it on TikTok because TikTok has a pretty good repertoire of content and videos of people that have gone recently to the places that, I might be going on an upcoming trip. I think like Google's really good at providing relevance to your query. So, if you ask for the top sites in Italy, it's going to list them off, or Rome, or pick a city. But it's going to be like Travel Advisor, the top reviewed places to go to. Whereas if you want to go like find those holes in the wall or those really unique experiences, finding those on Google is near impossible because again, it's the relevance engine. It's just looking for what is the best XYZ in this city. TikTok does a much better job of giving you the in the now, like what's happening there now. And what are places that you should go and check out? Because think of it this way, like if someone goes there, they do a glowing review of a restaurant, but this restaurant's only been around for 2 months. It has no chance of ever being in that top-rated restaurants that you're going to see on Travelzoo or any of those other
TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor. Like it's never going to be there. So you're only going to end up going to places that everyone else has already gone to and raved about. So I find that it's does a much better job of giving you those unique places to go to. And just a little add-on to this, like personally, I've actually been using ChatGPT for a lot of, I guess I would say more in-depth or like educational queries. Now, ChatGPT still does use a lot of like the Google-related stuff. So if you say, hey, what are the top things to do? I use it a little more complexly, but I'd be like, I have 3 days, these 3 days in Rome. Design me an itinerary that, incorporates these locations. And I want to go to nice places to eat and some unique destinations. And it'll come up with like a full itinerary for you by the hour, which is really cool. Google can't do that. TikTok can't really do that. So I find that it is useful in that sense. And then I also really like it just for general information and research. I think it does a much better job of understanding the context of your query and giving you the actual answer you're looking for instead of Google, looking at your keywords that you've written into the thing and then it coming up with articles that, match that content as best it could. So I find that Google is really much a relevance engine where I'm learning more and more that like ChatGPT understands you a little bit better and gives you a much more in-depth answer from multiple different sources to really answer the query that you're asking. And TikTok, like I say, is much better at that in the now cool stuff that you wouldn't come across in any other platform. So, I mean, that's my take on it all. Instagram, I mean, maybe I'll have to search about Italy, but I've never used it. So to me, that's just kind of a surprise that it's even in that list.
Ian, what about you?
Yeah, I think it is very interesting. I think it makes me wonder if the way people are, obviously the channel on which they're searching is different, but is the way people search changing in the sense that when you go to Google, you type out your request in a specific way, and presumably when people are searching on Instagram and TikTok, I imagine they're not using it. It's not just a replacement for Google sort of thing. People are probably trying to search for different things in different ways, and I think that's something that's important to be aware of as marketers. I also think it's very interesting if you're, for example, a business owner who's trying to target younger people in the Gen Z generation, then obviously, again, something to be very aware of, something to seriously consider when you are planning all your marketing strategies and how you're going to reach your target audience. I haven't personally used either TikTok or Instagram to search myself, but I do use YouTube a lot in place of Google if I'm specifically looking for a how-to video, how to do something. I've downloaded this new app. I'm not really familiar with it yet, and I just want to get to grips with the first, there's something specific I want to do, straight to YouTube, type in how do I do this on this app, and within a few seconds you've got a selection of videos to watch, and they show you exact step-by-step, which, I mean, Google may get you there, but it's going to take you a few extra clicks to find the exact same video, or you're going to be sent to an article, which is not quite as easy to follow. So I can understand that people are diversifying the way that they search. And yeah, again, I think it's interesting. And as Duncan mentioned, I think that things like tools like ChatGPT and other AI chatbots and things are going to become more of a replacement for Google as time goes on. But I don't think we should turn our back on the traditional ways, because as you mentioned, older generations still tend to, it's habit, isn't it? We've all done it since, for the last 20 odd years. So that's just your first stop in a lot of cases.
I think the diversification of search, like you mentioned, is a good way of putting it. It used to be if you needed to find something, the one-stop shop was basically Google. Yeah. But now there's all these other options for people to gain information from various sources, etc. Few things I'll say about this. I know there's been all sorts of TikTok news in the news about the potential ban, etc. Imagine if there was ever a merger of Google and TikTok. Imagine what you could do from a search engine, from a idea engine standpoint, where you've got all this real-time algorithm-driven content on TikTok combined with the traditional search of Google. That would open up some amazing opportunity, and YouTube then as well, right? I don't think that's going to happen.
A lot of lawsuits about monopolies.
100. Yeah. Oh yeah, tons. Yeah, tons. But I mean, that's just something to think about. The way I'm looking at this as well is from a business perspective or a marketing perspective. And Ian, you touched on this. When you're marketing now, you have to be relevant in a bunch of different places to get in front of people using these different sources. So I think we would all agree that social media has gone from a luxury to a necessity for businesses. But I really think this idea could change how businesses view organic social. And you think in the past with organic social, where the big bump you got from organic social was generally, let's call it 12 to 24 hours after something was posted. It rose up, people saw it, and then it fell by the wayside. But if we start thinking about how search is playing a role in some of these social channels now, that piece of content now is more relevant for a longer period of time because it'll start showing up in search as well. I see this a lot with YouTube, for example, on our YouTube channel. We get lots and lots of views from content that hasn't been or has been around a long time. So it's not just the initial bump that people see it when it comes out and it's new. It's all the other stuff it picks up along the way, the shrapnel, I call it, along the way as it continues on its lifespan. That's why blogging for so many years was so good. You didn't see an initial bump, but you were laying the foundation for search moving forward. So I really think as businesses and marketers, we need to look at, maybe our content out on social, maybe it's less important that we see immediate results, but more important that we're putting more content into places where it can be found on social, and where you really see the result isn't for days or weeks or months as it sits on TikTok or Instagram. And I know everybody wants to be viral on social, but maybe we need to start thinking about social as search and getting content there to be found longer tail.
Well, I mean, just like I was kind of alluding to with Italy, we work with a lot of tourism clients, and having a piece of content on there that literally is the, you know how people search, they'd be like, what to do in this city or this location. If you have content that covers that, and you have a video up there on TikTok that is well made, it will get views over time.
Yep.
Just reality of the fact that people search for those queries, and if you have a decent video, it will rank. So it is sort of changing the game. Like, people used to do this on YouTube as well, and it works. People used to write content for Google, right? You'd have a blog post about the things to do. TikTok, you have to have a video. ChatGPT, you'd be lucky to get on it, but it's still going to compile the stuff from a lot of different sources. So with TikTok, tourism makes a perfect little connection for as long as TikTok is around. I think it's a thing that most tourism companies should be looking for those really simple searches that they use to focus their attention for Google and blog posts.
Yep. A fun little thing to try. Next time you search on Instagram or TikTok and you come across a video, or in case of Instagram, maybe photos, look at the date that it was posted. I've noticed this a lot on TikTok, where you're watching something that comes through the For You feed or something you search for, and if you actually look at the date that it was posted, it was from like months ago. So for some reason, that algorithm is determining you need to see this now based on what you're looking for or what you viewed in the past. So it isn't necessarily the stuff that came out 10 minutes ago that you're necessarily seeing. It's what's most relevant. And that's something really important that any business needs to think about from a social standpoint, where it comes back to, like it always has, good content. You'll always find a home for good content, and good content over time will produce results, because it's relevant to what people are looking for.